You are listening to the Examine Life with Bram Levinson. I want to talk about time. My relationship to time has always been fascinating for me because I have always felt like I was in a race against time. I don't really know how else to explain it. I always felt like there just wasn't enough time to, when I was a kid, to, hang out with my friends and play, or get my homework done, or do whatever I wanted to do. And there seemed to be too much time doing the stuff I didn't want to do. And as I got older, I realized that I had more influence in the distribution of that time and what I devoted my time to. And that also came with just getting older and having more freedom to be able to choose, not being in such a structured environment where I had to do what I had to do because that was the structure imposed on me by my parents and by society and so on and so forth. But in my adult life as well, I've always felt like I was in a race against time. I've spoken about this before, but when I was 9 or 10, my first experience with death was experiencing or living through the experience of my babysitter who died in a car accident and going through that process of grieving. And that was fascinating to me from a very objective point of view, when I wasn't really caught up in the grief itself, when there was enough grace to be able to understand that this was a process and I could observe parts of the process. I was fascinated at how long it took for the grieving to subside, for me to not feel like that heavy weight was in my chest and that I was always, right on the brink of tears. But it was a real exercise in being at the mercy of time. And, we're told that time heals all wounds. Well, I don't know if it heals them, but it certainly lets the symptoms of those wounds start to abate until we come back to what we believe is feeling normal. But I have always felt like I was in a race against time. And I think that if you would have asked me in my 20s how long I expected my life to be, how long I expected to live, I wouldn't have said very long. I think I've outlived that expectation or that expectancy already, and I'm 45. But especially in the last 10 years, in this career, doing this yoga and mindfulness and meditation and spirituality and psychology and awareness gig that I do. And I'm hesitant to call it a career because it's more the way I live my life, and I have the luxury of being able to make my livelihood doing it. But really, over the past decade, I have felt like I was in a race against time. And I think that happens when you learn more. I think ignorance really is bliss. When you just don't know, and you don't care that you don't know, and you don't know that you don't know, things are good. Things are easy, And when you start to learn and you realize how much there is to learn and you understand how much you don't know, that's when you realize, oh, there's so much more to experience and there's so much more to glean, and I've only got X amount of hours in the day, and already X amount of those hours are already assigned to different responsibilities and tasks. So we realize that we have a limited amount of time. The time is not a renewable resource, in fact. And I'm really hungry. I'm hungry to learn, and I'm hungry to apply and see what sticks and what works and what doesn't. And the stuff that does stick and work, I'm starving to pass on and to help inspire other people so that maybe it improves their experience or the quality of their experience of life. But ultimately, there is a practice that I heard about years ago that I wanted to talk about today. And that practice, I heard it was a Buddhist practice, and it is a practice that you put into effect the moment you get up in the morning. And it is an intentional thought that you invite into awareness, and that thought is, if today is the day that this body dies, then what do I want to accomplish today? What do I want to do? What is my day going to entail? Now, although this intention could be interpreted as incredibly morbid, I don't see it as morbid. I think that when we are aware of death, we are more apt to live fully. When we are aware that there is an end for every single one of us, and a lot of people don't like to think about it, and it makes them uncomfortable, and I understand that, because in our culture we have not been encouraged or conditioned to live in the presence of death. We have not been conditioned to incorporate death, bodily death, and to study death and to really question what death is. We haven't included that in our life curriculum on this side of the world, at least not in the cultures and the environments that I grew up in. But over the past 10 years, and you know what, since 1984, when my babysitter died in the car accident, I have been in the presence of death. And at first it was traumatic, and over the next 3-4 decades it became less so. And I have had the luxury of, in my own way and in the way that I could, accompany my teacher, Joan Ravinsky, as she went through terminal cancer and her body went, and to observe the way she did it. It was not in a, mournful or victimized or apocalyptic or Mediterranean, throw yourself on the casket kind of way at all. It was full of joy, and it was full of beauty, and it was full of inspiration, and it was full of real. There was no bullshit about it. She focused on what was beautiful, and she was constantly in awe of the spirituality of the whole experience. And listen, that was when I was with her. For all I know, when she was alone or with the people who she was closest to, there was fear and there was rage and there was why me and all that stuff. But as far as I knew, that wasn't really dominant in the experience, in her experience of bodily death. But my experience with death has been such that it is part of the gig. And whether you like it or not, it is part of the gig. And when we incorporate that, we learn how to live more fully. When we are aware that there is an end to all of this, that there will be a last time. There will be a last time that we get to tell the people we love that we love them. There will be a last time that we get to enjoy the things that we love to do. There will be a last sunset, a last sunrise, a last vacation, a last meal, all of this stuff. I think that it sort of makes us come to attention. It demands that we come to attention. It's like a roll call of sorts. And so this practice of waking up every morning and asking, is this the day that this body is going to go? And if so, what is this day going to be? What is my intention for this day? What am I going to get done? I think it's such an incredible practice. Now, it also can be a little bit stifling. It can be a little bit like overwhelming because, if I wake up, or when I wake up and I ask myself this question, I think, okay, well, my priority, the first thing that bubbles to mind is I need the people who I love to know that I love them. And this may be exclusive to me. This may not be something that comes up in you when you ask yourself this question, but this definitely comes up for me. And if this is a daily practice, I know that the people who I love, first of all, I know that they know that I love them, so whatever. But I also know that if every morning I wake up and ask myself this question and come to the same answer initially, which is I want the people who I love to know that I love them, so then I reach out and text them or phone them every day to say, by the way, I love you, by the way, I love you, by the way, I love you, they're not going to love me so much. I think gradually they're going to be like, okay, I got it, you don't have to do this, do something else with your final day. But that's what comes up initially for me. I would want people to know that I love them. And the second thing that comes up is I want to get done the things that I need to get done that will outlast the physicality of this body, like this podcast, like the books I have written, like the lectures I have given, some of which are online. I want to be contributing to my echo. And I want that echo to resound and to speak for me and to follow me in the wake of this physicality, of the physicality of this body, of this Bramness. When this body isn't on this planet anymore, in any geographical location, I want its imprint, or at least the imprint of the energy that it embodied, to outlast it and to outlive it. And so I feel a responsibility to constantly be contributing to that. And so I will get up and I'll do something like, record a podcast, or I'll write, or I'll put up a blog post, or I will go teach, or I'll give a lecture or something. What else comes up for me with this practice? Well, I want to touch beauty. I want to enjoy all the beauty that there is, and I want to connect to it. And that's something that Joan showed me was possible, even in the presence of, what we have been told is a death sentence. I remember just being in her presence after getting the news of this diagnosis that she had gotten of bone cancer. And I mean, listen, my experience prior to my experience with her had been being in the presence of people who were ill and who sort of acted ill. And I'm not blaming them and I'm not judging them, but I'm saying that's what it was. With her, it wasn't that. With Joan, it was, she just kept looking around in wonder. Look how beautiful that is. Look at how delicious this is. Whenever I would go visit her, I would say, can I bring you anything? And she would say, just bring me dark chocolate, 72% or greater. And she would eat it in my presence, and there was such joy. She found such joy in it. And so I think that just reinforced my love of joy. I love to experience joy. I love to see it around me. I love to go out onto Mount Royal in Montreal and just be surrounded by that beauty everywhere, and the people and the life. I want to look in my dog's eyes and just see that intelligence there, and look at how goofy she is, at how she's just like an embodied Muppet, really. I want to laugh, and I want something or someone to make me laugh, and I want them to do it in a way that is new. So all of a sudden, I have sort of tapped into something that expands my frame of reference for humor and for joy and for appreciation. I don't know. I want all that muchness. I'm not really interested in having tons and tons and tons of material abundance, because if you don't have all the other abundance, then all that material shit is just that. It's just shit. It's just stuff. You don't take it with you. I think you do take that abundance with you, that spiritual abundance of muchness, of love and of connection and of joy and of, I don't know, just complete and utter appreciation. That's what I think it is. So I am saying all this because I'd like to convey that in this sense of being in a race against time, I am finding value in asking myself, okay, well, if all the time I have left exists within the day ahead of me, then this is what I'm going to do. And what I'm finding is that it's incredibly, incredibly gratifying. I find myself content. It can be exhausting. So every now and again, I will nap when I can, if I have the luxury of that time. But I think it's important that we all ask ourselves questions like this, not in a morbid way, not in a, do I need to be afraid of what's coming kind of way, but rather in a, oh God, and I can't believe this is coming out of my mouth, but in a carpe diem kind of way. I don't mean that in a hashtag or a tattoo kind of way, okay? I just want to say that. Because I think that carpe diem thing, whatever, reference is so overused, and I can't. But with that said, there is a grain of truth to it, right? These cliches are cliches because there are grains of truth to them. I think that it is up to us to make the most out of the time that we have, and to not go through that time on autopilot, and to not go through that time making other people happy at the expense of our own contentment and satisfaction. I think that it's up to us to really prioritize what matters to us. And especially if we have other responsibilities, if we have children, if we have jobs, if we have stuff that needs to get done, fine, we get that stuff done. But it means that we make time for the other stuff. Because there is a tendency to think that if we make time for the other stuff, we're going to be even more tired because we've got all that other stuff to take care of. But what no one tells us is that it energizes us. It doesn't exhaust us more. It energizes us. And so I think it's up to us to be responsible for this time that we have in these bodies, to express ourselves into the world the way we feel the need to do it, And this practice of waking up every morning and asking if today is the day that or the last day that I have to do what I need to do and what I want to do, then what is today going to be about? I want you to ask yourself this question tomorrow morning when you wake up, and I want you to see what it changes. Feel free to reach out and let me know how it goes. If it works, if it doesn't work, if you think I'm totally batshit crazy, whatever you want. You reach out, you let me know. But think about it, apply it. I'll see you later. This has been the Examine Life with Bram Levinson.